Hello, Water Forest Focus. The season ended less than 24 hours ago, but the rumour mill's already in full swing as it's reported Nuno could leave. Callum Hudson-Odoi is wanted by Tottenham. Who else? And probably a few more things I'm missing already. So we'll discuss those in full and, of course, review the win at Burnley on the last day of the season as Forest finished 17th in the Premier League. Joining me today, first of all, is Reds fan Emily Anderson. Emily, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Morning.
Morning, good to have you with us. Second guest is former Reds midfielder and Sky Sports presenter David Prutton. Pruts, how are you?
I'm good. Lovely to be on with you both and looking forward to it.
Very good to have you with us. Michael Temple's going to join us shortly. His actual day job has got in his way for the second week in a row, but he will be with us as and when he can. We shall kick off. We'll talk about the Nuno rumour that's coming out this morning. I say rumour, it's based on a report, a tweet from Fabrizio Romano saying that his future is yet to be decided. I'll put it on screen and read it out for those who are listening. Understand Nuno Espirito Santo's future Nottingham Forest is still open after keeping Forest in the Premier League. The Portuguese manager will discuss with the club soon in order to decide the next steps, but there's a chance he could leave Forest. What's your initial reaction to that, Emily? Disappointed or not?
Yeah, really disappointed. Can't we just have a week in Nottingham Forest Football Club where we don't have any drama, controversy, airing our dirty laundry in public? Nuno's just managed to keep us up despite the points deduction, despite the VAR controversies, in spite of having a squad that he didn't put together. His first time he's ever joined a club in the Premier League mid-season. Just give the guy a break. And what we need as a football club is consistency and some solidity. And things like this coming out, wherever it's come from, is doing no one any good. Clearly, there are people that are still not set with Nuno. I get that. I totally get that. But I'm all for giving a manager time, give him a pre-season, let him see who he wants in his squad, who he doesn't want, and then make a decision. And it's just, and you just read, you just go, oh, God, here we go again. Can't we just have a day off?
We'll branch out a bit from what Emily says there, Prutz, but what's your initial take on what the job Nuno's done, and does he deserve to be here next season?
Well, he's kept Forest up. That was always his remit. Any talk about what the next incarnation of this club is was premature, I thought, given as well, Emily's mentioning the points deduction. It's a fantastic job done in very tricky circumstances. People will point to the fact that it's a record-setting low score, which I think is a little bit mean, given obviously the fact that there are points deductions chucked into that. But we said all along, and we've said it for quite a while now, anywhere above the dotted line was success. There's a broader debate about the fact that the three teams that came up have gone back down again, and then obviously Man City winning that many on the bounce. But to keep it all thoroughly focused on Forest, I think taking over from someone that was beloved, taking over from someone that did something miraculous, again, in tricky circumstances, working in the face of everything to do with profit and sustainability, everything to do with whether you've got money, whether you don't have money, whether you're going to be, slapped on the backside for spending too much money. What he's had to do is get the players out on the pitch to perform in some form of coherence to get them to safety, and he's done it. It sounds a little bit defeatist and almost kind of damning with faint praise, but it's another season in the Premier League. Whether now Forest can build with whatever they've got, whatever they're allowed to use, we'll soon see. But there's got to be a real stock check of what the squad is, and of course players that have moved on that have been around for quite a while. Maybe frees up a little bit of money and spaces within the squad. But like I said, it's not a condescending pat on the back for Nuno, given the size of the nation states that he's going up against to stay in the Premier League. Big well done to him.
I know Forest do this at the end of the season, Emily, with all the managers. They did it with Lamucci, and they decided to keep him after that playoff collapse. They did it with Cooper each season. They'll do it with Nuno in terms of having a debrief. I mean, I suppose I would hope that if they were going to get rid of Nuno from their end and not him wanting to go, you would think the decision would have been made already, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you'd hope they've got a plan in place for that. And I sort of briefly said it before. It's another case of Forest airing their dirty laundry in public. We don't need to know about those discussions. Let us know when he's signed a new contract, or if they decide to let him go, or if there's another manager in place. You'd hope that with the sort of the chaotic few years that we've had, if there is a plan to get rid of Nuno, there is someone that is seriously better than him to come in and to improve us, because a lot of the criticism of Nuno is that, you know, he's no better than Steve Cooper. We're still in the same position. We've got this record points low. We've only just scraped up. We're a point lower than we were last season. Sorry, position lower. But he has studied the ship. And actually, I personally think our performances have improved with Nuno. I think Cooper was running out of ideas. I'm one of the biggest Cooper fans ever. You know, everyone knows that. I was gutted when he left. But actually, looking at it with my pragmatic, objective head on, I think Nuno has more than steadied us. And yes, it's a really disappointing finish, 17th, with, you know, just scraping 30 odd points. But I don't know. I'm just what more do we expect? It's our second season in the Premier League. We're going into our third season in the Prem. This is the greatest league, one of the greatest leagues in the world, if not the greatest league. And we've secured Premier League status again. And Nuno's done that in spite of all the rubbish he's had to deal with.
The thing with that as well, Emily, when everything to do with Steve Cooper was so emotionally charged, wasn't it? Because of what he did and how he did it. So you needed someone to come in who was a bit more dispassionate, really, because that's I'm not saying that Nuno doesn't care at all. That's just, he comes across ultra professional. You don't really get too much button pushing with him, because some managers you take to heart, and the club reciprocates, and there's a real love there, and they are professional and they can do the job. Others are a bit more detached. He seems to have been that way. He seems to be a naturally understated fella with a big presence, and needed to keep the history honest for the parts of the football club, because let's be honest, that is what part of the football club is, isn't it? If you've got someone as emotionally charged in the dugout as you have up in the boardroom, then you're going to be in trouble, because no one's going to have any sense of balance or order. So you possibly do need that. It's the kind of kind of oil and how that kind of is permeated throughout the team of what is needed for when things aren't going well. And he's kept a cool head. He's seemingly done it in his own way, slight tweaks to the playing system, got more out of some players that weren't necessarily performing under Steve. And again, like I said, categorically done his job, categorically done what he's been brought in for. And any chat about where Forest go next has to be relative to the playing squad, first and foremost, and then the manager that's in charge of them.
And also, don't, you say he's dispassionate, which you may come across as. I think he come across as quite shy, but measured. He's that steady captain that we so desperately need when we have such big personalities in the boardroom. And I really noticed yesterday he's got the players. He's got the players. There was a break in play. I think it was when Yates was down injured in the second half. And Elanga just had his arm around his boss. And you just thought, do you know what? He's got a lot of respect for him. And that's how it feels with the team. Just because he's not this big character like an Ange Postecoglou or a Mourinho or someone like that, it doesn't mean he's not passionate. It doesn't mean he doesn't care. He's just, that's just his way. That's his way.
Just a comment here from Tom about, is my house sinking to the left? I put my webcams higher up, and is it level? Is the webcam level?
It's definitely not level.
Not at all.
No, it looks like my house is sinking to the left. I'll probably adjust that while Protz answers the next question, which is
it's going to be a really quick answer now.
Yeah, it will be Pete Blackburn style. Yeah, one of the things I was going to ask. This is a bit of a recurring theme. It's in football, but Forest as well, around speculation on managers. Cooper had it for so long, over a year before he went, and I know as speaking to a couple of people internally, I think a few of them felt it undermined the manager. I suppose this isn't a fair comparison, but if there was a briefing saying Sky Sports are looking to shake up their presenting, and you're reading that, Prutz. Firstly, it's a bit
I've got it on here, so if that comes up,
I'll send you the report later. Is it a bit disconcerting? Does it undermine Nuno, or is it just part of Premier League management?
I think it's part of Premier League management. I think it's part of management in general. I've covered Hull City a lot this season and spoken to a lot of people in and around it. And then we see Liam get moved on off the back of what was deemed broadly a pretty decent season up against some very, very big clubs. And then you kind of look down into the kind of reads of it a little bit and see why an owner can do that, because it's his football club. He can categorically do what he wants with it. So there is an element of that. the tweet that we'd seen before. I mean, when you are, it's objective fact. I mean, if you are in contract talks, there is potentially the option where he doesn't sign and you go somewhere else. The way it's said is open to interpretation. But if you just read it for what the actual English words were, then it's fact, isn't it? You might sign, you might not. It's probably more likely going to be here next season, but there's a chance that it's not. That's just the way these contracts work. But the talk of building, I mean, De Zerbi, he's moved on from Brighton, hasn't he? At one stage, the next big thing, God knows where he's going to be, whether he's going to be in chats with other clubs, quite relevantly, that we're talking about now, I don't know. But that's just modern management now. I think rolling contracts, season on season, even if a manager signs a 3-year deal, it means nothing. You have 2 bad months, 1 bad month, you get sacked. So it's more about the manager covering his own backside, which is absolutely should, because you don't get, if you're playing crap for a month, more often than not you don't get sacked. But if you're the manager in charge of those players that are terrible for a month, then you might go. So you need to be able to protect that. And then it also keeps options open for owners, for the manager themselves, because what the changing faces of football means that there's always the next big thing bouncing around. There's always someone else that's on the radar. And it's that novelty of having a new manager. And sometimes owners, as I said, with the histrionics, sometimes with the drama, sometimes can think, oh, well, he looks great. He's done that at that club in the past. Let's get him in and do this. And sometimes the reality comes in and it's not quite the same when they walk through the door and see what's going on in the football club. So it's there. It's what football is. It's driven. And I don't for 1 second, don't think I understand what like us covering football does. We talk about it all the time on Sky. There's always something to talk about. And if there's not, it is deemed like there is something to talk about. That's part of the business. So it's there. It won't change. I'd like to think it'll hit a peak of getting to seasons and the end of season where you talk about the managers rather than trying to disregard them after 2 or 3 months. But such is the nature of the beast that everybody wants more right now. And I've got no doubt at all that the owner of Forest will be thinking exactly the same thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, like Liam says here about a few losses, he'd probably be gone. I don't know if that's exactly true, but I just don't like us constantly being on the back foot around managers, constantly being on the brink of change. Like if you look at Bournemouth, they started terribly. You look at Everton, they had an awful run. You know, I think we just need a bit of patience and incremental building. But we'll come on to that.
Plus as well with this, and I think it's something that is probably. It's inherent in what football is nowadays, because I'm sure if you are a diehard Forest fan and you've been following the club for your whole life, you don't want to be seen as that club that's a gamble for managers, do you? You want a manager to think, do you know what, get me there to show you what I can do and to be part of this wonderful, huge football club that should be part of the Premier League, definitely part of the furniture in it. But if they're looking at it thinking, well, there's potential for fireworks up the tree, there's potential for statements and tweets and stuff that, again, you go back to what Emily said about Nuno. She's absolutely bang on about how he is. He doesn't strike me as the type of fellow that wants to sit in a press conference and answer questions about his own and sending tweets. Does he? Talk to me about the football, talk to me about the team, talk to me about the squad, things that he can control. Don't talk to me about drama. Don't talk to me about everything to do with the off-field running of the football club, because it's tough enough putting 11 players on a pitch and getting a decent performance out of them in the Premier League.
True. Just sticking with the rumour mill very briefly before we go on to more concrete stuff. Callum Hudson-Odoi, tentatively linked with Spurs, I guess. A guy called Paul O'Keefe, who's very accurate about Spurs and seems to know things. They're tweeting that Spurs are interested in Hudson-Odoi. They're interested in Gibbs-White as well. Won't spend too long on this, Emily, because it's quite a tentative thing. But would he benefit from another year with us? He's going to get interest anyway, Callum, because he's had such a good season. But you know, unless the offer's mental, should we just do all we can to keep him?
Yeah, I think so, because it's actually taken him a season with us to properly bed in and show us what he can do. And I personally think a move to a Spurs type club, you know, at sort of top half of the table, he might end up sitting on the bench for most of the season. I can't see him as being a first choice in the Spurs squad. So actually it'll probably do him more harm than good. And I would suggest he's up there with one of our players of the season. He's just been solid, hasn't he? And he's got better and better as he's gone on. He's suffered with injuries in his career. He's still relatively young, isn't he, actually? But I'd like to see him in a Forest shirt come September. I don't think it'd be good for either party if he was to go to a Spurs.
The question applies to Morgan as well, Prutz, really. Spurs are a big club. They're in Europe next season. They've got the great stadium. London is a big pull, especially for a guy who's from London. You've been in that, those shoes where a Premier League club wants you, so you can speak to it from personal experience. Is it quite hard to resist if someone like Spurs comes calling, or would you try and think, actually, I might be better staying at Forest, even if it, is one step where I am to take two steps forwards ultimately in the years to come?
Let me tell you what I think from a cynical ex-footballer point of view. I think if Spurs come knocking on the door and you double your wages, you go. It's as blunt as that. I understand that sense of ambition that comes with wanting to play as many games, of being tied to something and somewhere that is really truly special, and not just being in a revolving door of internationals at a Spurs that doesn't really still kind of flirts with being something brilliant, but not quite being something brilliant, but very established. They're never going to be flirting with the bottom three, are they? They're never going to be knocking around mid-table come the end of the season, because they're not built like that. But that side of that of the choice is tough. It's really tough. I've seen it a little bit with Brennan. I keep in contact with his parents, who are classed as friends of mine and lovely, lovely people, and just a different world. You know what I mean? There's that fondness that you have for a player that's come through, and a bit of patience with a player such as that. Spurs are going, well, why isn't he this here already? Well, because he's not. Brennan's a good footballer. He's got potential to be a very, very, very good footballer. Not there yet. Needs a better end product. Needs to be more consistent. But what he does is really care about his profession, really care about his job, gives everything to it, clean living, hard working, all the things that you want in a footballer. Just happens that people at Spurs think you've got to come in and be, you know what I mean, the best of the best of the best, and they're not. Spurs as a team aren't there. They're definitely not Manchester City. They're definitely not Arsenal. They're definitely not Liverpool. So they've got a way to go to bridge that particular gap. Villa have shown them how to do it. So, like I said, it's a bit cynical. I apologise for being a bit cynical, but I don't think as well, if I'm a Spurs fan, and I'm definitely not a Spurs fan, with the greatest respect to both Callum and Morgan, I don't think the additions of those two players doesn't turn them into a title-winning side. And I mean that with, like I said, with the greatest respect, because they are two very, very good footballers that playing-wise I would have got nowhere near at all. But you look at that top, my God, it's almost a different universe of football that they're kind of revolving in, the size of the clubs, the players that are there. So whether for them it's kind of a half a step up, but then I suppose you are swapping the best part of 10 places, aren't you, between just fighting for survival and being in a team that they were lauded under Ange at the start of the season. They've been deemed to have come up a little bit short. They were in the chat about not allowing Arsenal to win anything, which, as we saw, thoroughly angered the boss, because he's not a pawn in that particular place, is he? He wants to win things for himself. But they're not getting anywhere near the big boys anytime soon, I don't think.
No. I think that, I think that's all fair, what you say. People in the comments pointing out, rightly, that Callum did say early in the season that he was, happy to be away from London and he needed it. So we'll see how it pans out. It's quite early in the proceedings still, so we'll pick that up as we go along.
Makes Nottingham sound really kind of parochial and quaint, doesn't it? It's still a massive city with loads going on. He's not living in the village of Lincolnshire, is he?
No, true. Right. Before we come to the Burnley game, just some end of season thoughts. Forza Fest is on June the 8th, which is creeping up on us quite quickly. Get your tickets from gigantic.com. £15, or scan the QR code if you're watching this on your phone or a laptop. Right, headlining are The Chase, so I think Greg has seen about 3 times in the last week, so really I should have got him to do this next time he's here. Let's talk about the Burnley game and the end of season then, Emily. What did you make of it, and how much can we take out of it? A bit of an end of season fare against a team who aren't very good, but I thought we were pretty good. We deserved to win.
Yeah. I'd say solid. We were solid yesterday. It was one of those games that as soon as we kicked off, I knew we were okay, because I was one of these really stupid people that was worried about the 12-goal swing. I had visions of Burnley winning 7-0 and us losing 6-0 and it all going to pot. And then you suddenly go, actually, that's really stupid, isn't it? I thought it felt very end of season. We were kind of okay without having to be really good. Burnley, you could tell they were really trying to put on a performance for their home fans, but they just didn't have that cutting edge. I was so happy for Wood because he's obviously had a bit of a nightmare couple of months, and he scored against his old team twice. Disappointed
and celebrated, Emily. I love
and
that.
Celebrate.
And
so should he.
Rubbish.
And so should he. He didn't go over the top, did he? But he was happy. And I think he actually got a clap from the Burnley fans when he went off. So I thought that was lovely. Gutted for the defence because I actually thought our defence played really well. We handled their set pieces. It was just a really unfortunate deflection. But I don't think they were ever. For me, Burnley were never a threat. They had most of the possession, didn't they? But they kind of didn't do a lot with it. It was one of those games that you just go, yeah, great, it's an away win. But actually, it was our first back-to-back away win since the 90s, probably when you were playing, perhaps? Would that have been when...
Oh, God! If it was at the end of the 90s, you've got half a chance. If it's any earlier than that, then no, I was still at school.
You were a wee boy. I forget that I'm a lot older. I'm probably older than you, aren't I? But yeah, back in the Collymore days when we were
really good. Well, I obviously wasn't part of that. Come on, I mean, put two and two together.
Sorry, I guess
I didn't win back-to-back European Cups, Emily. Just so you know.
You mean you didn't play with Gary Birtles? Oh no, I'm joking. I'm just getting
partner.
But it was nice to see that we could actually perform away because that's been the big bugbear of everyone, hasn't it? So we've gone from winning one away game against Southampton last season to this season. We've picked up 4 away wins. We've got some draws. So we're doing all right. And actually, we've only won 5 at home. So our away form isn't as terrible as everyone thinks it is. It kind of sealed, I would say, a very tumultuous season for us. I'm glad the season's over. I'm glad we stayed up. And I'm happy to sort of draw a line under this season that's gone, pretend it didn't happen, start again next season, clean slate, hopefully no points deductions. Hopefully we haven't lost too many players and maybe 1 or 2 additions. That's kind of how I felt yesterday. And it felt, by the time we were sort of into the second half, I was very, very relaxed, very relaxed.
Happy 65th birthday, Protz.
Sorry, Protz.
I thought I'd had enough work done. Obviously not.
Protz, are you even 40 yet?
I'm 42, Emily.
Oh, so we're sort of the same age. We're similar age.
But I've got a gentleman would say, I mean, you look far better for your age than I do for mine. So there you go. I thought Matt might jump in with that, but knowing that he's not a gentleman, he'd have been stood there.
No, and I'm sorry. Listen, to me, 95 was about 10 years ago. That's my problem.
I'm exactly the same. Yeah, 20 years ago. Yeah, when Oasis were around. No, that was still this century. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, sorry, Prut. Sorry.
Are Burnley, Prutz, a bit of a dream to play against? If you set up against them as Nuno did, and I thought he set up the right way, sit deep, let them have the ball, and pick them off because they don't have it. I guess they don't have enough quality to score a load of goals. Did we set up the right way? Do you think? Because we did give them 70% possession, and we actually created 6 clear chances in the game. We probably should have won by more.
But then, I mean, that feeds into what you've seen from Burnley and what they wanted to do with this season and what they thought they were going to get out this season. Looking at their starting 11, Forest is better. The fact that you've got a team that absolutely blitzed the Championship and then didn't really adapt or seemingly want to adapt to what potentially the Premier League might throw at them is a bit of a surprise. But to play a team such as Burnley on the final day in the way that they set up, it was perfect. And as Emily says, that end of season feel, the vibe that it would take something insane for it to be a day where Forest went back down, meant that once that first goal goes, and really nicely worked goal as well, I thought, to get things up and running, seemed to calm it. And hopefully by the end of it, the highlights that I saw, there was a sense of celebration. There was a sense of, as Emily says, boxing off the game and the season to move on. But as final day opponents go, the way that they set up with the quality of player that they've got, it was as straightforward a team matchup as I think you'd hope for, unless you had another one of the 2 teams obviously that had gone down. But it was a job needed doing. It was done pretty emphatically. Saw some of the scenes at the end when everyone's going over to the fans and celebrating, a real sense of communal joy, because it has been one of real experience at both ends of the spectrum, good, bad, and the ugly, where potentially if you said the things that you would encounter across this second season back in the Premier League is X, Y, and Z, as Forest fans, you'd be thinking, well, Christ, I hope it's not that, I hope it's not that, I hope it's not that. But it's seemingly had everything, hasn't it, really? And it's ended with success, which, again, maybe if you are an A-list player of a different generation, you'd sit there and shake your head at people celebrating not getting relegated, but that's rubbish. The Premier League is insanely hard to stay in, and Forest have done it.
Thank you very much to David Birchmore for becoming a channel member. Very good of you, David, and appreciate the support. There were quite a few good things to come out of the game, Emily, not least Chris Wood, because he'd missed so many chances. I don't know if it was starting to prey on his mind. Being an experienced pro, probably wasn't, but 2 really good goals, 15 goals for him this season. If it push comes to shove, are you happy with him to be our starting number 9, or has Taiwo got that shirt back? It's an interesting rivalry now, a genuine rivalry that's emerged between them, I guess.
I mean, he shows what, he can score goals, and I think actually he's kept us up, hasn't he? Because if he hadn't banged in all those goals when he probably shouldn't have done, like his hat-trick against Newcastle, we'd probably be facing relegation. My only concern is his age, I suppose, but he's a bit like Taiwo.
You don't think he's 55 or something, do you?
He's ancient.
I think he's 32, isn't he? So probably similar to Pruitt.
Which in Emily years is about 55, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, my only worry is his age and his injuries and Ty's injuries. And that's my big concern, actually, that we haven't got a striker that we can rely on for 30 plus games, because neither of them can stay fit. And Ribeiro's clearly not experienced enough or old enough. But no, I'm thrilled for Chris Wood, and you could see what it meant to him. You could see what it meant to the players. And a bit like you, I was worried that, is this actually getting to him now? Because he was missing sitter after sitter after sitter. And then bang, 90 seconds in, he scores against his old club. And like Pruitt said, it's a lovely, lovely finish for both. And he sort of, in the second goal, kind of helped Yatesy's shot that was kind of veering off target, wasn't it? And he sort of just needed to get a toe on it.
Does that count as an assist?
I wondered that. In FPL, it must do. Yeah, I did think that is an assist from Yatesy, which is fantastic. And I'm glad that VAR went in our favour, and it should have done, because the guy on the far side sort of played him onside, didn't he? So no, I'm really pleased for Wood. Whether he's our first choice striker, I'm not sure, just because of the age, the injuries, But then brilliant Premier League strikers are just like gold dust, aren't they? And they're certainly not going to be coming to us if they're really that good. So we mustn't complain. 15 goals isn't a bad tally for a season.
No, not at all. 530 people with us. So do us a favour, if you haven't already hit like, that would be a big help. Also on that goal, Pruts, feel free to add anything you want about Wood. But Elanga, really good cross, knocks it out of his feet. It was virtually the only time he did it in the game. I feel like his game's got kind of not regressed, but does he need to simplify it? He spent the rest of the game drifting inside and trying complicated things. Kind of just wanted to just knock the ball past the fullback and ping it in like he did for the goal.
Yeah, it's a tough one, because I chat to a lot of people from different football clubs and fans and different levels of football. And sometimes you get asked questions about setup and formation and tactics, and there is a real over-intellectualization of what football is. And then you see Elanga do something like that, and you're well within your rights as a fan to sit there and just go, can't you just do more of that, rather than the kind of intricate, long way to goal stuff, which sounds like you're being I'm being a bit condescending, but when you are a winger with or a wider player with the attributes that he's got, I honestly don't know why he wouldn't. I can't think for a second Nuno's saying to him, just do it once and then calm down and then stay in shape. I can't see that at all. So that's a frustration. And that goes down to decision making then as well. And that's maybe why we're talking about a Forest squad that's finished where it has, because I've always maintained that you look at players in the top half of the Premier League moving up towards some very big football clubs. Yes, there's players that can do things with the ball that no other people can, but the best players get paid for consistency, doing the same right things over and over again. And if Langer does that, I don't know, half a dozen to maybe 7 or 8 times a game. And if you are Chris Wood, who has been in a bit of a sticky patch, and you want him just to simplify it, get to the byline, spin it across, get into the 6-yard box, spin it across, simplifies his game. it also means that whoever's playing behind him knows that he's got his fullback pushed firmly further up, and he's pushing that side of that team shape back. So it makes your job easier as a fullback or a wider kind of wing-backy type player. It has a knock-on effect. And also as well, it lifts the crowd, it lifts the team, because however many seconds it was in, you see, well, these lot will bang up for it today. So you've done it in the first couple of minutes. Do it several times in the first half. Do it several times in the second half. So, like I said, it sounds a little bit condescending when you break it down, because football's a simple game that is really kind of made difficult by overthinking. And sometimes that simplicity of thought and of action means you get a goal like that. And scoring goals in the Premier League is tough, really tough. So if you can stick to what you're good at, getting past people, putting decent balls into the box, I don't know why you wouldn't.
When it comes to the Burnley goal, Prutz, I mean, I normally watch goals back 4 or 5 times, to be honest, but I've only watched this one once because we won and, it was pretty meaningless in the end. So I'm going to completely lean on you. Is there something we should be doing a lot better there, or is that just one of them that's a bit unlucky when it just deflects in?
I mean, it couldn't be any better placed, could it? It was. I mean, I suppose maybe a reference to the bit of pressure in the second half. You'd want to close people down around the edge of the box, but deflections like those, Jesus, it's the goal. I mean, you just see the goalie completely freeze because he knows he's got no chance whatsoever. And you watch that, and the kind of the physics of what that is to place that so far in the corner is just that's the wonderful thing about football. You look at it and go, how the hell has that gone in there? And if it's come off you, you're thinking, Christ almighty, I could have placed it any better if I'd have tried to put it. So I can't be too scathing with that. It would have been nice, obviously, to finish with a clean sheet. Does it matter? Not really. So there's always things you can pull out in a goal and where it kind of comes from, because that's your responsibility as the team that's conceded it. But I think given what was at stake in the game, given the stage of the game, and given where we were in the season, it's disappointing, but not remotely something that you take into the off-season.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Midfield, Emily, probably remains the most interesting area of the team to discuss. Yates went off pretty early and gave Sangare an opportunity to get 35 good minutes under his belt. Can't judge him on that at all. But what did you make of him, and what are your thoughts on him going into next season? Because he could be such a key player, and he could solve a lot of problems for us financially and in terms of filling the biggest problem area on the pitch potentially if he comes good.
Yeah, I mean, I have criticised him this season. I know people got upset with me when I criticised him earlier on, but he's not proved himself so far, and it's not his fault that he's got that big price tag round his neck. I don't think he did a lot yesterday, but I'm really hopeful that maybe next season is his season and he can really solidify his position in our midfield, because the best of him is what we're crying out for, isn't it? That's kind of what we need. He's clearly struggled to settle in. And I actually thought until Yatesy went off, Yatesy and Danilo were great. I thought Danilo particularly had a very, very good game. He didn't stand out to me, Matt. I'm trying to think of occasions that he didn't really do a lot. He gave away a foul, and I thought, oh God, no, Sangare, please don't let them back in the game. But it was fine. But yeah, he didn't do a lot that I noticed. But I really want him to do well, and I hope he stays with us, and I hope he can have a really good season next season and sort of prove to all the doubters like me that he's definitely worth his money.
He gave away a foul after a really good piece of play, which probably sums up a little bit about what he's done for us. Is there a lot in the thing, Prutz, of, second season, a football club? You'll have experienced it within England. This guy's coming from a different league, a different culture. Do you put much stock in that with a good pre-season under his belt and no AFCON?
We can be quite blasé about that, I think. Obviously, having never played football in a different country or anything that would be culturally a world away, Scunthorpe notwithstanding. It's and I say that with love. If you're from Scunny, I love Scunny. We just kind of, as players, just assume that you just get in and get on with it. But there are so many different dynamics to that, whether it's yourself, obviously, as a player and a person, your family, the pressure that comes with playing in the Premier League because it's covered more completely now than it ever has been. Every single touch, tackle, shot, influence or non-influence on a game is pulled apart and dissected. But on the flip side of that, it's professional sport at the highest level, and if you mentally and emotionally aren't built for it, then it won't be for you. So I think we've seen glimpses of a player in there that could have a real effect. Like, as you say, Matt, maybe a nice intense pre-season, familiarity with the players and the people and the places. We'll probably say that, and then Nuno will get the boot and someone else will come in and he'll just have to start from scratch, won't it? But a nice bit of balance and to be settled going into the opening game of next season is something that they absolutely need. I mean, AFCON's such a big thing as well that's been part of the discussion, some of the comments, given how well Nuno's done with the team, because when you have that amount of players that are that integral to what you are going to be doing positively on the pitch disappear off for what is a stellar world tournament, then you're going to struggle. So I think the dynamics in that haven't helped. But maybe that semblance of being settled on and off the pitch, and I'm saying this, I don't know anything regarding Sangari's situation away from the pitch, but it can only help if a player feels like he's at home and valued and wanted. It's just the other part, but the other side of it, like I just said, and absolutely right for the fans to sit there and think, well, come on then, what's all the fuss about? What's the money for? What's the attention for? You've got to perform. It's nice to be a lovely club that people like playing for, but it's top level sport and you're there to perform, not to make friends.
No, the Dutch league's such a hit and miss league for players who move as well. For every Van Nistelrooy and Van Persie, there's an Anthony and God, I don't know, Alfonso Alves, if people remember him. That's a long way back. But yeah, players who've made that move. Or like Cody Gakpo this season, still adapting and stuff like that. So yeah, I think the jury's still out and I look forward to seeing him over pre-season because he needs to have a good pre-season, certainly. What were your emotions, what were your feelings on the final whistle, Emily, or now the dust settled on the season? Someone asked me, it'd be good to have a discussion on what went wrong. Do you accept the premise of the question that it did go wrong because we stayed up or not? And if so, what did go wrong?
I'm not here for that. I have mixed feelings. There is no getting around the fact that there were three very poor teams below us that kind of helped us this year, and that it was a record low points tally that kept us up. Yes, we had some terrible decisions made, terrible games, so many games lost from winning positions. You know, there's all that negativity, but I don't think it's necessarily time for that right now. I had a sense of relief. I would say I was relieved yesterday that the 12-goal swing didn't happen. But we've talked about it, haven't we? We have had a season of controversy more than ever. You know, the VAR decisions, the public outbursts, the points deductions, the injuries, AFCON. There was a point, probably I would say a couple of months ago, when we kept playing really well, but losing. So Liverpool's a great example. The team played really well and we ended up losing 1-0. And that's a game that possibly another day we'd have got a draw out of. And that's when I thought, we are playing like a relegated team. I think we're doomed. And I was starting to resign myself to the fact that actually we might be straight back down after just a couple of years in the Prem. But actually, we have survived. It's not what everyone wanted. I know it's not an improvement on last year, but it secures Premier League football for a third year. And that is a big deal. That's a really big deal. And the other thing I really thought of yesterday, which I really wanted to mention, was the fans, because there was talk, wasn't there, early in the season that maybe we'd got this second season syndrome. The fans weren't quite as loud at the City Ground. It didn't feel like that fortress that it felt like in the first year because we weren't the underdogs, we weren't the Luton. But I have to say, the last few games that I've been to at home and yesterday's crowd were absolutely brilliant. And I loved listening to all the songs yesterday. So I think the fans need a massive clap, particularly the away fans that go week in, week out, and they didn't stop singing yesterday. And, you know, it's a cliche, but they really have been the 12th man. So I think, you know, they deserve a lot of credit as well.
What do you make of the season? Perhaps a lot of fans saying at the end, oh, thank God it's over. Was it that bad? I'm sort of asking you the same question, hoping that you won't dismiss it like Emily did.
I think it's, again, it's so tough because it's historically what Forest are over what they are right now, and in the landscape that they are existing in, for a team that had spent so much time away from the top flight to be back and to chalk up a third season is a phenomenal achievement. I think we've all seen, and reality has bitten with regards to what financially is the Premier League is. And we're all aware of it. We're all aware it's a huge multi-billion pound competition. But Forest being in a position, ironically, to have money to spend, but then going bonkers and doing it the wrong way by virtue of them actually having points deducted. Just it's an irony not lost on Forest fans, is it at all? When you bounce all the way down to League One and then get yourself back to the Premier League, and you might have someone who is a little bit unpredictable who owns the club, but he's got deep pockets. So and then you kind of think, oh, this is the time now really to be able to do it. But you look around and you think, well, we can't do it. So flying in the face of that, in the face of a much-loved coach being here and then moving on, and then someone who's been in and around the Premier League doing his job, which is to guide them to safety. I can understand why they want to see the back of it. Everything to do with VAR. I'll be intrigued to see how that gets voted on when it comes to the Premier League AGM. And also, as I said, the off-field antics, which haven't helped, I don't think. And also, at times, looking like a team that, as Emily said, was playing and doomed to be in the bottom three. So, again, going back to the phrase of damning them with faint praise, I think it has been a successful season. What your definition of success will change from what your experience is. But to stay in the Premier League, third year on the spin, and now hopefully, potentially, if there is room for it, now's the time when you start to do the little tweaks to help you evolve to thrive in the Premier League rather than just survive. But you've got 3 teams coming up. Leicester City needed to get back up because financially that was a huge iceberg potentially for them to hit. Ipswich Town, greater than the sum of its parts, and all the parts are wonderful. Whether Kieran's there in the first game of the season, I don't know. Brighton obviously strongly linked with him. And then you'll get either Southampton or Leeds, 2 teams that fell out of the Premier League with a whimper last time they were in there. So whether they go again with regards to stacking up players or getting or keeping hold of their best players, who comes in for Somerville, who comes in for Archie Gray, we don't know. The same with Southampton. Kyle Walker-Peters, fantastic player, would suit Forest. That's just chucking that one out there. There's so many dynamics to it. So Forest have got the smallest rolling start on those 3 teams that are coming up into the new season, almost kind of just jogging over the line before you start the sprint. So they've got to make sure that counts. They've got to be ahead of at least 3 teams once again in the division. For them, hopefully, maybe it's towards the middle. And again, that's not a low bar to set. That's just reality. Look at what Palace have done. I mean, whoever comes in at Brighton, we'll soon see where they go. They're a very well-run football club. Don't think for one second that that's shocked them with De Zerbi moving on at all. They'll have somebody absolutely lined up, ready to go. Going back to Emily's point, if Nuno's in trouble, Forest absolutely need to have someone lined up, ready to go, ready to take them on to that next step. So there's so many different factors. Bournemouth, under that manager, they've done fantastically well. I mean, Lopetegui's coming in. It's going to be... the thing, it relieves such the right word, Emily, because you can kind of go, oh, thank God. And then you go, oh, my God, it starts again in August, doesn't it? And it's just an absolute onslaught. That's what it's going to be, unfortunately, for the foreseeable future.
Quite a lot of the drama that Emily listed there, rightly put, quite a lot of it is of our own making. You know, we signed the AFCON players, we got the points deduction. There was a fair bit of, someone said chaos in the comments. That's the words that's thrown around, chaos, isn't it? Is the lesson to try and eliminate that or reduce it to a minimum? Because I really don't think it's conducive to success on the pitch consistently. I feel like you need to cut that out as much as you can, don't you?
You do, but that would take a fundamental change of personnel. They think. I mean, with the people, and again, I'm always wary of passing judgment on owners and potentially how they come across. I mean, not least from a defamation point of view, but you kind of think, if you say it that way, does it sound like that? But in the sense of, I've used the word histrionics, there is a real sense of drama. What we've seen this season, without being too sensationalist, is, I mean, owners on the pitch, You don't see that in English football. Without sounding like English football is the last bastion of all that's right and true and moral and great, which is we all know is rubbish. You don't see that on the pitch. That's genuinely shocking. That's preserved for different leagues around the world. That's not how we do it, which again sounds a bit kind of stiff upper lip type stuff. But I don't think any Forest fan is proud of that. They're not proud of a tweet that gets retweeted 50 million times or viewed 50 million times, which just looks terrible, doesn't it? Whether people think yes, it sparks a debate with VAR, I don't know, but it's just a nonsense stuff like that. VAR right now is here to stay. As I said, whether that changes after the AGM, I don't know, but it's part of what the whole situation is, and everyone's party to it. Yes, there have been times when it's seemingly been something beyond anything that's palatable with regards to decisions against Forest, but that's across the board. Everyone hates it, everyone loves it. Everyone hates it, everyone loves it. It's the same thing for everyone. So these are things that we've never seen before. So I don't know whether it's about Leopards changing the spots, but what the owner's done and how successful he's been in his life, both professionally and when it's come to sport, has worked for him, hasn't it? Can you see him changing? Can you see the way that they're on the football club changing?
No. I mean, he would say, and he did say, covering my own arse, that he was just showing support on the side of the pitch with the Liverpool game, and also Pruts. It's interesting. Quite a lot of fans do like that tweet, and they do like the kind of they see it as the Rebel City thing. Whether other players, not everyone does, but there's an element of the fan base that does quite like that screw you kind of mentality. I don't think you can keep it going all the time, but there is an element of the fan base that does think, yeah, let's screw the Premier League and stuff like that. Is that?
But in what sense screw the Premier League? If there's some big, and not because I'll work with companies that cover it or I'm involved in games and chat to football clubs and the PGMOL and all that type of stuff. It's what happens in situations, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, if 15, 20 years down the line, a lid gets taken off and everyone goes, well, that's actually what was happening. I mean, hold your hands up. But because of what the game is, and you don't want to sound too altruistic and too kind of earnest about what it is and the good of the game and all that type of stuff. When things happen that don't make sense, when decisions are made that don't make sense, when there's the technology there to make sense of those situations and they still don't make sense, that's what creates conspiracy, because then it's our human need to put something sinister behind incompetence. That's what that is. These massive things that happen in the world, oh, it must be that. Well, no, sometimes these things, these ridiculous decisions happen. And I've been sat there watching them with VAR going, I've worked on games where you're going, well, I can't honestly believe you've come to that decision. But then you look at the laws of the game and the interpretation. Sometimes there is absolutely no validating what they've done. And we as people that cover it would point that out. But to suggest anything other than incompetence in those particular situations, which again isn't particularly a great word to use when you're talking about match officials, anything other than it being an incompetent decision made in that particular context and suggest anything bigger, again, unless I'm being too naive about the whole thing, I can't see that. I can't. I mean, maybe it's part of me as a fan and a lover of football that doesn't want to see it, because if it does, it would fundamentally destroy the game that I've known and loved for 65 years, as Emily said.
I don't know. I found the chat's doing it now, and the comments will be about corruption. I found that the most exhausting debate this season, the constant stuff about it. So yeah, we'll move on. We won't move on. Have you ever refed a game? I'm sure you did a feature, Krutz, where they mic'd you up. Did you ref a game in front of refs, something like that?
I did a bit of that, yeah. And I actually went over to Loughborough the other week as they get together, and it was the Select 2 group, which is obviously Championship and below, who, when they get together, I think every couple of weeks, and run through decisions and kind of feedback. And they were working on, they're having a test of VAR announcement in stadiums. So decision made, you've looked at the thing, you're now addressing the crowd to say what's happened. My God, it's a tough job. If that comes in, my word, mean, God forbid you get a team name wrong. God forbid you address the wrong set of fans. They're instantly clippable and memeable for the rest of your life. It will exist on the internet. It's just a very, very tough job. And I'm not on here to be a referee apologist by any stretch of the imagination at all. 14 red cards and 99 yellow cards in my career shows a man that had an ongoing battle with what officials were. But I just think it's a tough job that's been made tougher year on year. And we're talking about it now. And there's something on Sky Sports here, Ref Watch. Have they made the right decisions? Because it's febrile, isn't it? We need to know it's got to be right. It's got to be 100% right. When the glorious thing about the game is the best parts are based on mistakes. That's what the game is. It's unpredictable. It's sometimes incoherent. But chaos, the word that was used in the comments, chaos is what makes it the spectacle that we love.
You didn't want to go out and get that 100th red yellow card then?
I was gutted that I couldn't go over into that.
Right, we'll bring Emily back in. As a BBC employee, I always leave her out of the corruption chat. So yes,
thanks for that.
No, that's all right. We've covered all the ground we wanted to cover. Any other business? Any final thoughts, Emily?
No, I don't think so. No, I've said it already, but I'm just glad it's over. Let's enjoy the summer, enjoy the Euros. I'm already missing football, but we've still got the FA Cup, haven't we? We've got the Champions League final, Euros, and then we'll be back to worrying all over again. Great, can't wait.
Here's a gripe. This isn't in my any other business, but what an absolute joke that Spurs are boarding a plane last night to fly to Melbourne for a pre-season friendly. There's some of those players are going to be playing in the Euros. All this bullshit about player welfare and all that stuff, and we can't have FA Cup replays, and them and Newcastle are off jetting around the world to play money-making friendlies. I know it's good for fans who live overseas and all that stuff, but what a nonsense. This is when people talk about corruption, I can't even go back to it. This is the corruption of the game, just making it about money and all that stuff. So yeah, that's partly my bit. I'll come back to the other stuff. Protz, anything from you before we go?
I agree with what you're saying. That is, yeah, the swift dismissal of replays and the fact that, I mean, there was, again, watching Jurgen Klopp's send-off yesterday, which I thought was really well done and an amazing bit of football in history to see what he's done there and the people that he's touched was great. And then you kind of cast your mind back to he's talking about, was it Amnesty International coming in to look after his players because they were playing midweek and on a Saturday lunchtime, and then discussing about the welfare of players and all that. I can't remember the name of the fellow escapes me, but one of the playoff games, I think it was one of the Doncaster lads, or maybe Peterborough, he was clocking up his 50-something start. And it's like, oh, all right, because it's not the Premier League, it's fine for him to knock on the door of 55 games a season, but because it's higher up. I've never got that. Yes, it's physically, it's a more intense game than it ever has been at the top level, but as you say, you finish the season, you clock off. And yeah, let's be honest, they're not cramped up in coach, are they, going over on that particular plane? But it just pales into kind of farce, really. When there'll be a point made about fixture scheduling next season, and I sincerely hope they go, well, hang on, why? And then I think they're going back there in pre-season as well, aren't they? So
yeah. Absolute nonsense. Right. The only things I was going to say was we are back tomorrow. I spoke to Carly Davis, the Forest women's manager. So there's a bit with her on the season. It's quite interesting talking about her life as a manager. So check that out. Then back on Touchwood on Wednesday with Lewis and Kelvin to review the season from the ex-players' point of view. Kelvin's on a fitness holiday in Mallorca at the moment. So, but he's going to do it from there.
What?
So, yeah, a fitness holiday. That's what he says. If you're Calvin Wilson, it is. I don't know, but he's gonna jump on, which is kind of him. I mean, he's in like Greek god shape physically, so I can't argue with him.
Reedy did that at a stage. He did that, didn't he? When he went to Spurs, I think Andy Reid. He used to go on these extreme fitness holidays, I think.
Yeah, well, they're different builds.
Make of that what you will.
So check that out on Wednesday. Thursday, hopefully, we'll have a bit of a end of season alternative awards. I'm sure the players will be very happy to win from us. And then not sure what happens on Friday, but there you go. Live show tickets Thursday, the 13th of June, go on sale tomorrow. So look out on social media for that, and I'll drop some links in episode descriptions. But get your tickets for that. It's Lewis and Gary on the panel. Did ask Prutz, but he's swanning off to the Euros.
Swanning off? Work, mate. Come on, it's work.
Co-coms or presenting?
Christ. Co-coms.
Oh.
Yeah, for UEFA. So that host broadcaster sends it out to God knows where. There'll be some poor sod at the other end of the planet going, did he play for Colchester? me casting aspersions on an international footballer. Just play it, make it simple, mate. Jesus. I'm looking forward to it. It's always good.
Yeah.
I'm sure it is. Last thing I was going to say, Adrian Saxon, one of our listeners, says, me and 3 friends are playing 72 holes of golf in one day at Bulwell Forest Golf Club on the 25th of June in aid of prostate cancer. Can you give it a mention to help raise funds? So I'll drop the link for that in the episode description. I shouldn't like question these charity endeavours. Playing 72 holes of golf in a day sounds all right to me.
Sounds amazing, doesn't it? Yeah, it's not a marathon. but then what are you doing for charity, Matt? Nothing. So
yeah, there you go.
Exactly. Yeah. So give those lads your money anyway. So, yeah, that's it. Only thing I was going to say is, have you got a motorcycling podcast as well, Prats? I never give you a chance to plug anything. So there you go.
Yeah. It's with you and Thomas of all people. I mean, this is where you get into. I mean, Emily's just glazed over like some middle-aged man talking about a motorbike. It's like, Jesus Christ. Are you all right to ride at your age, Prats? Have you still got your license?
How we ride? Oh, I can't talk, can I?
Yeah, so we do that, and we chat to people that are into it. We've spoken to Chris Akabusi, James Cracknell, just lots of different people, and so it's good. I mean, if you're bothered about motorbikes and you want to listen to it, go and have a listen to it. If not, fine.
Very good. We shall leave it there as ever. Do us a favour if you haven't already. There you go. What the hell?
My God. You've had a scene.
It's affair, isn't it? Absolute shambles.
Crossroads podcast.
Absolute car crash. Pressing the wrong button the day after the season ends. This might be the right one. I don't know. Here we go. Yeah, like, subscribe. Give us a good review even after that shower. That would be helpful. But there we go. Right. Great to have 560 people with us all the way through. 600 plus at one point. Apologies to Emily, who spent the last 15 minutes as a passenger, so I do feel bad about that.
I enjoyed it actually, because the issue I have when I'm on the podcast is I can't then listen to it in the car because it gets me through a journey to work. So I could sit and listen to you guys. So
Emily, would you listen to if you've been on it? Would you listen to yourself?
Absolutely not. That literally would make me. Yeah, that's what I mean. So I wouldn't ever listen back to this because it's a bit weird, isn't it?
What about watching yourself?
No. I tend not to because I don't know how you feel, Prats, but I find that you're so. I think the vision of how you think you look in your head, and then you see yourself on the telly, and you go, "Oh, that was weird. Oh no, so no."
Yeah, you go. Does my voice sound? Yes, it does. Yeah.
It's more the way you hold yourself, and you think, "Oh God, no." So no.
Correct. Yeah. I'm absolutely the same.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Right, we shall leave it there. We've gone on a long time. Well, these two can talk about insider TV stuff and makeup.
It's really niche, isn't it? Just two-person conversation.
You watch yourself when you're presenting TV. Oh, no. Right.
So relatable, this podcast. That's what I like about
it. Thanks very much, everyone. Have a good
narcissist. Comment narcissist.
Could be
guilty as charged.
We shall leave it there. Thanks very much, everyone. Have a good day. Do join us tomorrow if you can, but if not, we shall see you soon.